Tuesday night we'll have a video conference and they can respond there.
Okay, I
How's
just
that?
started the video recording right now, so it missed the
Oh,
first
that's
few
fine.
sentences. Sounds good. There is something I need to tell you, though, is as of a few days ago, we're not going to be posting we had to cut basically everything we're doing and stop posting it. Not from an ethical dilemma, but we'll get into that later. So, like, this
Good.
video we can totally post, but not really... But a lot of what we were doing, we're not going to be able to keep doing.
I hope it's for good reasons.
It's for stupid reasons. Well, it's for
Oh,
realistic.
okay.
It's for real world reasons.
Sure.
It's not an
and
ethical
it
thing.
could be, and maybe it's ethical. Maybe there's some ethical dilemmas, that you need to consider. That
There are so what we're doing. You saw what we're doing. The original idea was take everything that we're doing and video record it and put it online. Here's the problem: if you put something online, then you have 6 months to 1 year to file a patent on it. If you keep it secret to yourself, you get more time. And because we're a technology company, because owning technology is the entire basis of what we're doing, we can't really post that much about it anymore until we've already filed the patents. So what we're gonna have, that means we can't just take everything we're doing, video record it, and put it online. So what we're planning on doing to get around that is record everything and then post it after a few year lag. And also to maybe create some specialized blog topics for stuff that doesn't reveal the exact technology we're working on. So that's a huge problem. I don't know if you call it an ethical one, but it's
Well, it sounds like it could be. It's a legal one, right?
yeah.
I mean, you've obviously taken a look at either copyright laws or, whatever laws that you're, technology laws, right? And so you've had to take a look at that.
Excuse me. Yeah, and and we have run into some ethical issues of, hey, we're in private negotiations with a certain group, with certain laboratories and such, and for that, it's very clear we can't post this. So, what we can do under those circumstances is maybe use some code names. This is this Hackney thing we've been doing for a while. I am sorry, I've got a bloody nose. Be right back. 5 minutes. 5 seconds. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So what we've been doing in that circumstance is if we accidentally mention a name during a video, we just eliminate that video, cut it, and we've been using code names so that we can sort of talk about what we're doing without mentioning exactly who we're working with. And when we really have to discuss those people, we just take that off and don't record it.
Are your videos on YouTube? Are they on your blog?
It's on YouTube, not on the blog. I can give you the link, but like I said, we aren't updating it ever since we realized
And
that.
so, are you considering yourself an open source company then?
As open source as we can make it. So I'll still consider it open source if we can publish something of everything that we're recording eventually. So we still are recording everything. We're just not going to be able to do it to the extent that we wanted to. Yeah.
Was your goal? Is your goal to be an open source company, or is your goal was that sort of a side effect of your company? Do you want to end this and we can start later?
Oh, I'm fine.
We can talk later. Okay.
So, the plan wasn't originally to make an open source company. The plan was to make a company, and then we thought, hey, we can make this open source because it's easy. The reason that it was easy at the time is because I was on one side of the country, my brother was on the other. And everything we do when we talk to each other is over a video call, just like this. And because everything is over a video call, it takes no extra overhead to record what we're doing. If we were just hanging out in a room talking, that's annoying to record. But if we're already talking through electronic communication, all you have to do is flip a switch and now you're recording like we're doing right now. So because we were doing that, we thought, hey, this is really cool. There's another couple other reasons we were thinking of doing this. One is that And one of them has to do with open source technology, which a lot of the stuff we're building is based off of. And that has been a great inspiration for why we're doing what we're doing. Also, we wanted to just be able to like show what it's like to start a company. And you might have seen some of the stuff on the blog already of like, we want to do this. And we've looked at everything we possibly can from people who have been doing stuff similar to what we're doing. We want to learn from them. This goes into the educational stuff. But because only a very small number of people start major tech companies, so there's not a large pool to start with. And those who do, who are successful, get rich. They don't really have a financial incentive to write books afterwards. So you can't find a lot of literature or to teach for that matter. Like if you're if you've got $100 million net worth, you're not really that likely to keep working a normal job. So because of that, it's very hard to find information over what big companies were like when they were starting. If you want to make something similar, and compounding this fact is, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, and compounding this fact is the fact that there's a lot of mythology. Like if you look up anything about the old Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, whatever, part of it is, hey, what really happened, and part of it is all this stuff that's been added on to make it sound cooler than it was. So what we want to do is we wanted to create a record of like, hey, we hope we can make this work, and if we do, we want to show it exactly what it's like, to show that, hey, we're not superheroes, and like, this is what it's like, these are the boring things you have to deal with, these are the important things to take care of. And, as sort of to help other people, help try to change the world. Assuming that we can first, which, that's a really, really big if.
That's right. Well, so what is your motivation for you to want other people to also change the world?
Because I want a better world.
Okay.
The other thing, though, there's a really, really big important thing to this, though, which is worth bringing up, which I don't know if you're familiar with, called open source software.
Can you explain a little in our Facebook conversation? And I would love for you to share that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't want to go too far because I didn't want to bore you. Like, hey, here's these 20 pages of something you've never heard of before.
Well, I made total sense. So if you just want to share that, that's great.
Okay, so what system are you calling me from?
Chrome.
Chrome. Okay, what operating system and what kind of computer?
I have a Lenovo PC.
Okay, fantastic.
So Microsoft platform. Is that what you mean?
Microsoft on Lenovo. That's exactly what I wanted to know. And Chrome is important too. So if you look at everything, the software you're using and the hardware, it's all closed source. So like the Microsoft OS is trade secret. Microsoft knows what's in it. Nobody else does. Nobody else is allowed to look in it. There's software stuff that is added to that to make it virtually impossible. Technically not, but humanly impossible for a person to look at a Microsoft OS and see what it's actually doing. Which means it can be doing stuff like spying on you, sending you adware, tracking you, uploading stuff to the NSA. There's a lot of paranoid people in this field, but it really does do that. And it can even be full of security holes, and if there's security holes in that let people break into your computer, there's not a way for you to tell whether they're there unless you're, break the law to do it yourself. So, because but that's not the reason that it's really annoying for us. The reason that it's annoying for us, for some types of engineers, besides the conspiracy people and the ones who super care about security, is that there's no way to modify it. When the stuff's closed source, you can't just write more code to build onto it. Same thing with Chrome, and same thing with the hardware of your machine itself. So what we've been building stuff off of certain open source platforms. This is one. The code is pretty amorphous, but that is two. And the reason we can build our entire company is because people have contributed to open source platforms that are, editable, modifiable. And we figured, hey, we can do that whole thing with the company. Of like, yeah, this is how we built it. You guys, once we're done, can copy the template of how we structured the company. Not the technology itself, of course, but like the way we do things. And build off of it and try to do something even better to make the world a better place. That's all.
That makes sense, yeah. Great.
Yeah, so right now I'm running this off of Lenovo, but if you take a look at the operating system itself, that what I'm running right now is completely open source. So you end up with, a lot of people around the world have contributed to this, many of them voluntarily, just in their free time because it's fun, to build a system that can pretty much do anything. and has high security too, because anyone can fix security holes.
So one of the things that, so I know your motivation now, and we have to read these different articles, and one of the persons that we're reading is Howard Rheingold. He's written a book called NetSmart, and this particular chapter is just on participation power and participating in online. And there's a spectrum, right? I read a blog and then I respond to a blog, and then there's different, and then you're creating a blog and you're creating a company. So that whole open source movement relates to that power and participation. There's that sense of belonging and empowerment and users, and it's the power that only, and I can imagine you feel this way, that it only works if you share it with others. So is this an attribute that you and Matthew have? And then have you always been involved in online participation? Was it, I've learned that there's, different motivations. There's that friendship motivation of, socially connecting with your friends like Facebook. And then there's more, subculture, interest driven, where there's gaming and coding and sort of that jobs and gates that you had mentioned earlier. Is this an attribute that you have?
You cut out for like the last 10 seconds.
So is this, are these attributes of participation in online participation, are these attributes that you and Matthew have? Have you always been doing this?
So you're like saying, do we use the internet to like communicate with each other in communities and such?
Well, just your whole life, have you, as a youngster, has this always been a part of you where you were driven to participating online?
So
what was?
So the thing about online is like there's a really gray continuum between just using it for this form of communication versus this, and it's a pretty gray area between producer of old school mass media and just using it to talk. And both of us were like born in the early 90s, so we grew up on the internet. Like, the internet is just a part of life and is just one of many means of communication. So if the question you're asking is, do we use the internet to interact with communities on certain platforms and as a method of organizing things, it'd be hard to find anyone in our generation who hasn't. If you mean, are we really big into producing content for consumption, that's something that we've only just started recently. With the open source company, and my brother, he does a blog on occasion. He's been working on that ever since he started traveling recently. And then, however, that's in the sense of using a communication platform to transmit information, to produce content. If you're talking about building the communication platform itself, like let's say one level deeper into not just sharing what you use the technology for, but building components of the technology itself, the engineering style of that, we've both been working our way into that for years. Neither of us are good enough to contribute to one of those major open source projects I told you about, but it's like an ambition of mine, at least, to be able to do that sometime eventually, just to give back to the community that has basically taught me to program computers. Like, the way I learned to program computers wasn't from a class or anything. It was just messing around with open source software. Don't know if that answers your question, but...
Yeah, it does, totally. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, loved it. And then, so you contribute online, and you are hoping to profit, right, from online, your online work. There's a title, Network Entrepreneurs, right? So you benefit because you've got this reputation, you've got this audience, and you're giving your products for free. You've also benefited because you've taken other people's products for free, this open source. You can't really succeed in network entrepreneurship, though, unless you're consistently enriching the network, and you're growing your network, and you're doing something that other people haven't done. Is this something that you and Matthew think about as you are growing your company? And maybe it's maybe that question's not as relevant now that you're, I don't know, you're having to, that you're not, and maybe just because I may not understand your, the subject of your company, but I'm wondering if that makes sense. Is this something that you, Matthew, are thinking about as you grow your, an open source company?
That makes sense. What we're doing is a little different from other companies that are in this sector. So, like, some of them are just like people whose primary purpose is to produce media. Like, they write articles, they write videos, that kind of thing. While we are doing that, we are making videos and such. That isn't the primary purpose of our company, and that isn't our profit. So we're doing that entirely for the networking community. Now, there's this organization called Y Combinator that does that too. That has become massively, massively successful by using media to build an audience, and then profiting off of just using that mostly as marketing for a separate product. Like, our product is hardware. You can't profit off of that by, networking a bunch of people on the internet, because we're selling physical objects. What we're doing networking for is in order to build connections. That's the idea.
Got it. That makes sense. And then one thing that I'm learning, that there's so many different skills, literacy skills, digital literacy skills that we need in order to be digitally literate, and especially to be able to participate in these in this, where you're persuading people, which obviously you were working on the last couple of weeks, which is how I learned about what you were doing. You're curating, you're discussing, you're presenting. What other skills, including ethics, do you feel you need to participate in? And what are other skills you need to have to participate in an open source company?
So to start any company, open source or not, you need pretty much to know everything about a product, which includes engineering, technical aspects. A lot of the stuff is in medical, so we need to know that. We need to know how the medical licensing system works. We need to know sales. We need to know presentation. We need to know how online video and blogs work, how the communities work for that. We know how to sell. We need to know how to sell stuff. We need to know macroeconomics and micro. We need to know how to fund organizations. We need to know how to give presentations. And those are just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, also plastic manufacturing, large-scale manufacturing, Arduino, several different platforms of software, a couple different hardware platforms, Bluetooth communication. Should I go on?
I think we got it. I think those are all, yeah, absolutely.
We're basically doing everything. So, like, we just need, none of these are really hard. It's just like, know a whole bunch of these different skills. Because we can't afford to hire anyone yet.
Well, I was going to say, and then that was another thing I was going to ask is, are you able to be resourceful enough to find the information that you need, or you kind of, either are you going to other people, or are you kind of just doing it on your own?
Oh, we are doing everything we possibly can. We are talking to people when we can. We're looking this online. We're reading books, everything. The nice thing about this, though, is because the community that we're building off of this is already so open, most of the information is freely available, and it's just a matter of where to look. Plus, laboratories, we've noticed, are really, really good about telling people what they're doing, because their entire motive, their entire operandi is, hey, we're doing something cool, and we want to help the world by telling people what we're doing. So, like, everyone we talk to and know is really open and helpful, and even people we don't know that we just find the resources they've created and shared online are also extremely, just altogether, you can't do this without the community, without the environment, without the right people.
Right. I think that is what I think as an educator that we're hopeful for, right? Mm-hmm. That we're hoping that our students are as considerate and mindful as you, and that's how it should be. And I think it just, it's my online, we're hoping for that as well.
Yeah,
so really getting down to it, what are the ethical concerns that you and Matthew thought about as you developed this company?
So originally, our plan was to make sporting equipment. Like, I do a few hobby things, and I'm like, hey, here's this electronics thing I could build that people want that apparently doesn't exist yet. But after we'd started working on that for a little while, my brother goes, hey, you know this thing that we're making? You could use it for helping people punch harder and give you other brain damage, or we could use it to help cure these horrific neurological disorders. And I'm like, how much harder is it to cure the neurological disorders? And he's like, it's basically exactly the same. So I go, okay, let's do that. And now we're working in the medical field. So like, that wasn't a huge, hey, here's this moral right thing to do and moral wrong thing to do. It's more like, hey, we're going to do something, so we might as well do it well. That's the same way with the whole open source company. It's like, we want to start a company, and let's see if we can make it open source.
Got it. So that was like kind of a side, I get it. Side venture, it makes sense. It's great. Mm-hmm. Are there any other, and maybe you see this from other companies or just the way you're talking, it sounds like you're having a really great experience. But are there other ethical dilemmas in starting any company, or even when the conversation that you had with Y Combinator, how that went? Was there anything related?
I don't know what I can think of. Like, a lot of the stuff, the overwhelming, this probably isn't what you want to hear for the essay you're trying to write.
No, it's great. No, I think this is real, right? This is real. But
the overwhelming number of, what we're doing is a lot of engineering. So the overwhelming majority of the problems that we run into aren't, do we do this thing and this is right, or we do this thing and this is wrong. It's, here's an engineering problem, and this is hard, and we need to find a way to figure it out.
And you have to figure it out. You have to find the answer, and you need other people to find the answer, or you just need to know where to go to find the answer, and you need all the help you can get.
Yeah, because, like, the thing is that what we're doing, a lot of ethical problems you run into are when there's a fixed pie and you need to figure out how to divide it. Like, you do something, it'll help you, but will hurt this other person, or vice versa. But what we're doing is we're trying to create something that never existed before. So even if, like, hypothetically, we did the wrong thing, we were, like, as evil as possible, and we just wanted to keep everything we made, which is impossible when you're starting a company. But let's suppose we did, we wouldn't be hurting anybody.
Right.
That would still be strictly an improvement on the world. But because of how companies work, because of how economics works, you have to sell it to people, and you have to make their lives better. And plus, like, just knowing lots of people is also useful. So networking helps everybody involved. Which means that you end up in this weird microcosm where helping other people ends up helping yourself eventually, in general, on average. And trying to, in this weird situation where, unless you're in military technology or something, or unless you're in a very obvious field, which we're not, where, even, like, trying to be as selfish as you can, trying to maximize your own benefit, has to benefit other people, because otherwise no one will buy what you're making. So, a lot of it isn't really right or wrong or any ethical dilemma in that sense. It's more of a, like, hey, who can we help out? How can we help them? Hey, can we make something that'll make your life better? Let's just talk to you. Okay, do you like this? Maybe. That kind of thing.
Right, it makes sense.
Our entire modus operandi is finding people, finding things they want, and giving it to them, and then after we make it good enough, we go, okay, we're going to have to, like, sell this to you instead.
Yeah, and that's an issue. I mean, that's people, you need to make money, and that's, I think, for educators, we share, and then are we getting anything in return? And same with librarians. We are, and I'm learning about this, that there's a difference between, like, growing your collection. You really want this amazing collection that it's specific to a library or to some sort of academic institution, but there's not enough money for that because there's so much open source education out there that you have to either subscribe to it or it's available, and so there's no ownership there. And that's a consideration, I think, for some institutions. And I'm on the, I guess I'm on the mindset as, hey, if students can learn from it, and then let's get access to it, whatever way we can get. And I think that's probably the way you're thinking too.
Yeah, what do you mean, like, open resources? I thought, like, an open resource is just something anyone has access to. Like, how would that ever be an ethical question?
If it's, copyright law, if it's copyrighted, like, you've heard your moms ever talk about the teachers. That's something that we've thought about, where teachers have created lesson plans, and instead of, sharing it openly, where you're sending it out to your staff members, hey, I've tried this, and this works great. You are putting it up on Teachers Pay Teachers, and then you're profiting from it.
Oh.
So I guess it's those sorts of things.
Excuse me.
A patent, I suppose, right?
Yeah, you run into that here with closed software, but we've just noticed that in our experience, working with closed software is way, way less convenient than open platforms. So there, usually, the question is, do you want to use this better stuff that's more ethical, or this worse stuff that's less? The big exception, and the elephant in the room, is Apple platforms, but we've just been avoiding that, ignoring the ethics just for technical reasons, because the closed source is such a pain to deal with. We're only just now starting to look into working with them, with their equipment.
Well, and that's I guess that's the dilemma right there, right? It's so closed, and it's so huge that you don't even want to deal with it.
Yeah, but
so you have to go around it.
Yeah, but it's an accepted fact that you kind of have to. Like, when we were at Y Combinator, one of the things they said was, hey, are you doing this yet? And we're like, that's a good idea. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I should, we can end there. I think, unless there's anything else, but I think this is, it was a good conversation. I appreciate your time that you were able to give and talk about, from your end, and just finding out why you were doing it, or why you are doing it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And hope this has been useful to you.
Yeah, it has. Thank you so much. It was good talking to you.
Take care, and have fun with your master's degree.
Thank you.